Hello there guys, it's me Unstable Voltage and welcome back to SimCity Cities of Tomorrow. I'm continuing here with Voltford because there are a few things that I do want to get up and running in this city. First of all, the power. We actually went and built ourselves the fusion power plant last time, but there wasn't enough power in the city to actually get the thing up and running and started. Now, some people have suggested trying to buy power from a neighbouring city, and hopefully that'll give me enough of a boost to get it jump-started. Not 100% sure that it works that way, but I'm certainly willing to give it a try, so no problem there. We're still very short of high wealth workers, so of course we are going to have to get some of the land value up in this town. And then before I do anything else, what I want to try and do is sort some of the traffic problems out, because as well as this being my university town, which we now actually finally have, I also want this to be a sort of tourism and gambling town, and in order to be successful at that, you need to get a lot of visitors from the neighbouring cities, and that means your roads need to be able to cope, which at the moment they're struggling with a little. So what have we got going on here at the Research Academy? What do they want us to do? If you supply our facilities with more wealthy workers, well, we do want to actually do that. That is part of the plan. Transmit more control net than ever before. Yes, well, we would like to do that. Now, I'm not sure if we can get this started. Let us see if we can buy power from somewhere else. I'm going to click on the power grid. I mean, we have a massive excess, but there is another 134.6 megawatts available in the region. So let's have a look. We can buy quite a bit from Voltville. Voltville has a lot to spare, so we will buy from there. Only for now. We'll just do it for as long as we need to. We do also need to think about building a Great Works at some point. The only one that's not been approved is the solar farm, which would actually be really nice. We need to complete the research project in order to do that. Processors we could build, and alloys we could build, and plastics we could build. That might actually be quite a nice one to have, as opposed to some of the... There again, if we're going for a tourist town, the international airport is also quite nice, but that's something that I will have to consider. That does take a bit of time. Anyway, we've bought our power, so let us go back into the normal view here. Now, it probably won't show as an excess because it doesn't buy it unless we actually need it. Let's have a go at getting this thing up and running. It actually says it needs control net. That's because it's not actually running. I actually closed it down to save us a little bit of money on the running costs. I thought there's no point having it actually running if it is unable to do anything. Let's speed everything up again. Now we do have some new buildings coming along because we increased the density here and there. There we go. We are now buying control net from Voltville, so that should be enough to actually get this thing up and running. Still says not enough control net, but it should be getting there eventually. Let's give it a bit of time and see what happens. We will eventually start upgrading things like the clinic. I mean, the clinic is not overworked by any stretch at the moment. Even the fire department. I mean, everywhere seems to be really, really short of jobs. And I probably will get a couple of mega towers in. I mean, the airport's going to take up a little bit of space down here, but not the massive amount. Which means potentially we could get a mega tower or two in this area. And then possibly get all of our casinos and things up around here. Haven't quite decided how I'm going to lay that out yet. But we certainly need massive input of people. Now these houses aren't really growing. Do we have density issues here? Where's all the shopping in this town? Okay, so apparently we're having a bit of a demand for commercial. Well, that is completely understandable. We do have a bit of room to expand. Not a great deal of room to expand, but we're going to do that anyway. Let's build out as far as we can without interfering with the train lines here. And we're going to go right across. Not exactly a straight line, that is it? There we go. Probably... yeah, road grade too steep. I was afraid of that. Never mind. What we will do then is we will have this little sort of annoying corner there. Deal with it. And what we are going to do... do we have a road across here? I thought we did. It's very difficult to see. Yes, we do. So we've got a nice big space. And what we are going to do is we will literally just make all of that commercial and see what happens. We've got a few houses here that are derelict. Couldn't find shops and parks. So definitely happiness issues. Now, of course, one way you can alleviate the unhappiness is with parks. You don't necessarily have to have shops, but no, I agree. There probably aren't a great... He has a lot of unhappiness, and there isn't a lot of parks in the area. Now, we do actually want high wealth as well. So let's have a look at some of the high wealth stuff while we've got a bit of space over here. And let's do what we usually do and destroy the house of the unhappiest people. So we'll go right ahead and do that. So that creates quite a lot of extra happiness in the area. That should help help sort a few things out. There are a few gaps with parks and things, but I think we can leave that for now. Let's have a look how the power plant's doing, how control net wise. Well, okay, it's got enough control net. Let's have a go at igniting the reactor. Now, I'm not necessarily sure this is going to work because I think the way that you buy power from neighbouring cities is it only gets bought in ticks. Oh, but it did apparently work. So maybe I was wrong. Either way, we actually now have enough power and the reactor is online. Now, that is brilliant. Now, we definitely need to carry on buying control net, because if we don't, we won't be able to get the power plant working at all. All of our power should be coming back on now, which is very good. So there are a few things that we don't need to do anymore. We don't need to buy power from anybody else. In fact, I don't think we are actually buying power from... Well, we were buying power from anybody else. Ah, we're not selling to. There we go. We don't need to buy anymore, so let's stop buying additional power. But we still need to buy control net. We might even be able to sell power now, actually. We'll probably have an excess, but at least we've actually got that going now. So that's currently generating 200 megawatts of power. Now, what are we outputting here? This place is putting out 409 megawatts. Well, we're certainly not going to need all of these anymore. We did put all these on because... no, that's going to dose the entire power plant, which isn't what I want to do. I just want to... Why doesn't it let me do this anymore? It used to do it. Oh, there we go. Edit. We just want to bulldoze some of these individual upgrades. We will get rid of the entire thing eventually. But obviously we do want to make sure that we are still generating enough power. Right. How are we doing here? We can get rid of a big chunk of this service road as well, which makes us a lot of extra space. Well, it's hard to see because of the dust. So we should still have an excess, even if we get rid of all of the upgrades on here. So let's leave that alone for a little, see how it copes. And then what we can do is we can actually get rid of the wind farm and just have this on its own. How are we doing for power now? We still have a massive excess. Well, what are we outputting here still? Still only outputting 200 megawatts. And this is outputting 326. So yes, if we just directly destroy this, we will have a bit of a power issue. Which is a little bit of a shame, because if we come to improve this... Mind you, we could, how do we get this? Research Advanced Fusion Reactor. Power production rate 2,400 megawatts. Uses a lot of control net, but it would be nice if we could get one of those. Can't afford to put a new one on anyway at the moment, and so destroying this will cause us some issues. We'll see how that goes. Let's just speed things back up again a little. We're still making money. Of course, we also need to get the ferry terminal up and running. I closed it down because there just wasn't much tourism in the area. Now, we can actually fix that to some degree by going into city specializations, and we can actually pick from the culture buildings, and these buildings do actually increase tourism, and they raise land value as well. Some of the high wealth ones are just incredibly expensive. I mean, most of them are incredibly expensive, let's be honest about it. But we will try and get some of these in at some point. We don't get many tourists. 382, not a bad number of tourists. Yesterday we had over 1,000, so we are definitely getting some. It may well be worth having a gambling house in here at some point, as well as the airport. Do need to make sure we are on top of the power though before I even attempt to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to slow the game right down, so hopefully this will work. I'm going to very quickly bulldoze the power plant, and before everything goes off, I am going to upgrade this very quickly. It's not overlapping. There we go. Oh, apparently I did leave enough room to put one on that side. But we now should be outputting... Should be outputting more than that. Maybe this one just hasn't had an opportunity to spin up yet. We still have power, I think. Yeah, we're still putting out an excess. Maybe it just hasn't registered what it's actually outputting, or maybe it's just not reporting it correctly, which is a possibility. There we go, that reactor's actually starting to turn now. And we are still only putting out 200 megawatts. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. We certainly seem to have power, so I don't think we've got much of a problem there. Research is slow. We still need high wealth workers, but it is getting there, which is very good. Let's have a quick look over here and see how our high wealth is doing. Certainly having a bit of luck with the commercial here, which is good. We are getting some high density, high wealth. Are all these roads as high density as they can possibly be? Looks like they are. So there's not really a lot we can do here. Of course, we do have that issue that as you become, especially with the high wealth, as you become higher wealth, you get less houses in an area, which is a bit of a problem. So the other major things that we want to concentrate on doing here, get a gambling house in somewhere, get a municipal airport in here to help bring the tourists in, and also... Yeah, well, that's about it. I mean, we will get an expo centre, and the expo centre takes up a huge amount of room. So I do need to be relatively compact with things. It would be nice to get ourselves a mega tower in here, but I'm not sure how much of a benefit it's going to be, whether the population of the mega towers actually helps with anything else. These houses aren't being particularly useful here either. Going to leave them there for now, because they you know, they are still houses. And they are still generating, you know, population. But maybe later on, if I need to put in things like parks or more fire stations or more schools or stuff like that, I've got the space there to do that. Let's just have a look here what is going on at City Hall. Oh, it's that Dr. Vu thing again. I wish that would go away. It's very annoying. Considering turning on the ferry terminal, we certainly have enough money to do it. It does cost us quite a bit of money to run, which is the problem. But it is worth it if we can get the people coming in. So, how are we doing for power? 400 megawatts. There we go. So we now should have a power excess. And should we need to, we can put another fusion reactor on here on the side. I believe we do have enough room to do it should we need to. Yeah, we certainly do. But what might be nice is just to research the advanced fusion reactor, because once we have one of those on there, I don't think we're ever going to have to worry about power again. Industry's improving quite nicely. These guys, they're happy. But we did do a little bit of reconstruction here when we were moving things around, so that's all good. How are we doing with garbage disposal? Quite nicely, we've got the garbage atomizer, so that is working quite well. Bus terminal seems to be doing okay, but there is still a massive lack of jobs. Now, there's still quite a bit of space over the back here that we haven't used yet either. So I think what we may do is I'm going to put a high-density street running in along here, because why not? And we are going to put in some housing. Trying to make sure they've still got room to expand. Going to go in for some here along the back of the fire station. I'm not going to put it directly behind the police station or the mosque or anything else, because that's going to limit its room to expand. It might not be worth putting in another road of them, because they probably won't have the room to expand for that either. What we are going to do is we are going to take a park, and we're just going to use the lower wealth ones, because all I'm concerned about at the moment is just filling jobs. So don't necessarily want to have lots of parks and things that are going to take up a lot of space. We'll put them where we've decided not to zone. So we can put one in there as well. These should help to increase happiness, and hopefully will help these buildings to increase in density a lot more quickly. So we'll keep our eye on that and see what happens. We're still buying control net, of course. What's the mission we've got now? Build the arcology. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to build the arcology. but we will certainly see what happens. So, question is, what do we go for next? Do we go for the airport first, or do we go for a gambling house? I suppose we could go for a gambling house. It would get us some money in. Now, let's just have a look at the airport and try and remind ourselves how much space it's going to take up so I leave enough room for it. So we want planes. We want the municipal airport. Now, it's quite long, but it's quite narrow, so we can actually put a... and this is pretty much where it's going to go anyway. In fact, we can afford it. Based on that, should I place it? While we can afford it, let's place it. Worst case scenario, we can always turn it off. And I don't think I'm going to put it... I don't know. Should I put it right at the end of the road? And then that means I can save this little area here. And oh, that's not a bad place to put it either, come to think of it. We could potentially put it there. I'm not sure how it's going to affect the residents. I mean, I personally wouldn't like to live right next to an airport runway. So let's put it down over this end and be done with it. So there we go. We now have ourselves a municipal airport. Words. And that will allow us to get some more tourists. Now that we have tourists, we should consider the ability to put ourselves in some gambling houses. Don't have an awful lot of money. But we are going to need an avenue, of course, because we need to be able to build on it. We're not building things here such as houses, or certainly not at the moment, so we don't need to leave lots of space to expand. So let's have a look at gambling houses. Obviously, it is in the city specializations, but just before I do that, there's one very important thing that I should do now I think about it, and that's go to buses. Now, we do have low tourist attractions, that is true. Put some bus routes in near and around the airport so that people can actually get onto the to and from the airport. And just really, we haven't actually bothered putting any bus stops or anything in around these areas. We've got a brilliant bus system, but no one can actually use it. And also, while we're here, let's just have a quick look at the bus stops for the schools. And just make sure we've got as much coverage as possible there. Okay, I'm relatively happy with that. So yes, we have low tourist attractions, but before we do anything else, let's have a look at gambling houses, because they do attract a few tourists just on their own. Now, there's a number of things we could go for. We could go for a very basic gambling house. We could go for a sci-fi casino, quite expensive though. And then obviously you've got some of the higher wealth bits and pieces as well. Now, yeah, I was going to say you can build hotels as well, but I think they're actually part of the gambling houses. So we're going to take this this sort of very basic gambling house, and we are going to pop it here because it'll leave us a bit of room to expand later on. So let's have a look at our tourists. So 19 potential tourists per hour. There we go. We're already getting some cars going in, which is great because the place is still closed. Is it staff parking? Now remember, these things do cost money per hour to run, so you do have to consider that you need to have enough tourists visiting to actually be able to make any profit from these things. So as you can see, we can click on individual ones. This is actually losing 520 simoleons per day, simply because it probably doesn't have enough tourists going in to make up enough money. It will eventually, it will get there. But we'll keep our eye on it and see what happens. What do we have here? Academy upgrade is available. We completed another mission there. Still need 200 ferry terminal passengers. Okay, let's just reduce the speed down. We still need a lot of high wealth workers before we can do anything. So what are we going to do here? We have an academy upgrade available, so let's hit that. Now, do these boost control net transmission by 25%? So what do we want? Do we want a quantum site? Let's have a look what we want to research before we do that. A lot of these things have already been researched in the area. It's the advanced fusion reactor which we want to. And we actually have a quantum of science, a plasma physics annex, and a nanoscale engineering annex in the region. So it doesn't really matter which one we go for, to be quite honest. But I'm going to go for this one because it looks nice. And that's, you know, what more reason do I need? Let us pop that in along there, because sure, why not? And that will boost our control net output, which is really good. I'm still going to continue buying it from our neighbouring city. What you have to remember when you buy resources from a neighbour is you only actually buy them if you need them. So if you're buying power from a neighbour, but you're producing enough power for your city, you won't actually buy any. But if your power output drops below your power needs, you'll automatically then purchase what you need up to the total amount they have available. As you can see, we are still buying 500 control net from a neighbouring city. We will get another research project going. We're desperate for high wealth workers here, of course. So there's an awful lot of things that we can research, although I think all the green ones have already been researched, so we don't have to worry about those. It's only these ones that haven't been, so I guess we need to concentrate on upgrading to level 3. Now, is it worth trying to make any of these houses high wealth? Do you know what? It probably actually is. So let us consider doing that and sort of going back on what we did a little before. We're going to take out some of these parks if I can find them all. There's one. I know I built a third one, but I cannot currently see where it is. I'm sure actually the easiest way to do this is to just click on parks, and then if there was one there, it would show up, and there isn't one. So let us go to the high wealth ones. Now these are quite sizable, but that's good because they do actually have a better coverage area. And I think we'll pop one. Have we got space for one in here somewhere? We're already getting some buildings changing, actually, so we might be okay there. We've got space to put another one in that isn't overlapping, which we do. I guess we could actually put one there. So let's do that. That increases the land wealth value by a considerable amount, and this will hopefully give us some much higher density, high wealth people, which is going to be really, really good for us. We could have also done it there as well. It's probably not a bad idea. Let's see, can we fit any of the high wealth things in here? Let's have a look. Where was it again? Under parks. Let's put something different in this time. Let's go for a flower plaza, just to try and offset some of this nasty pollution. Put that in there. Does raise the land value. We will see what happens. We're also getting a lot of high rises starting to appear now, so this is really going to help. And we have some zoning issues. We have some huge demands for residential. Yeah, because now we're actually short of workers all over the place. Maybe we do need to put in a mega tower and literally just go for population now. You still want me to build a recycling centre. It will be done at some point, but it is not about to be done yet. We are now making a profit at the gambling house. We're actually making a relatively decent profit. Now, there are certain things you can add on to gambling houses. You can add on extra little bits and pieces that attract additional tourists, which is always nice. They do cost you a bit of money to run per hour, but it's certainly worth having one of these and putting it down. You can also add other things like rooms that people can rent. So, of course, you have cheap rooms, which is low wealth. You have nice rooms, which is medium wealth. Some of these gambling houses allow you to put on rooms for the high wealth people as well. And you've also got things like slot machines, blackjack tables, comedy club, and a lounge. These little things that you can add on to attract people of various different wealths. Let's pop a comedy club on and see what happens. Don't think I've left myself enough room down here now for a mega tower. Certainly not, but we can always put a mega tower up here. If we concentrate on putting all of our gambling and our tourism stuff across there, and we build mega towers here, we should leave some nice room in the middle for an expo centre. We can make a huge amount of money if we deal with that properly. I don't really think there's anywhere else where I can cram in some extra residential. Well, possibly. We do need to leave room for the university to grow. Of course, we can always destroy houses as and when we need to. So for the time being, let's put in some houses wherever we can and see what happens. We are getting a few derelicts, which is quite sad. Only 2 though, so not too bad. And how's the airport doing? So tourist arrivals today 60. So it's not doing particularly great. Of course, we can add additional runways. Add an additional runway to increase the frequency of flight. Maybe I should have left it a little... Oh, no, I don't actually have to... I can actually just snap it next to the existing runway. I didn't realise you could do that. To be honest, I've never actually built the airport before. Maybe this road is a little bit too close. Worst case scenario, we can always destroy the road just behind the casino and move it up a little bit. But we certainly aren't getting enough passengers with the airport right now to worry about that. We can also add cargo terminals to increase our freight capacity. And passenger terminals... What does that actually do for us? It doesn't actually say... Oh, medium wealth tourists. And the billboard does absolutely nothing for us, as expected. So, I think what I probably should do... And yes, I will do. I am going to destroy as much of this road as I can get away with. Which is a bit of a shame, because obviously it was quite costly and expensive to build. And we are going to move the road up a little, and then move it along. Just because that then gives us room to expand the airport if we need to. We're also going to move the avenue up along here. In fact, I'm going to take this avenue right out to the borders of the town and connect it up with the main avenue coming in from the freeway. And then that way we can actually get everybody to come in from the other side of town as well. It's a little bit messy. Maybe taking up a bit more space than we need. The important thing is the expo centre to leave enough room for that. That is what's going to catch me out if I am not careful. But apart from that, everything is all good. Still short of those high wealth workers. What are we doing up here with these houses? Are we at high wealth yet? Not quite. But I think we're getting there. There are a few high wealth houses here, of course. I think it's just where the overlap for the parks are. Obviously, they're quite new. So they're not at the point yet where they want to increase their density. But when they get to a point where the density starts to increase, that is going to help us out an awful lot. We're not doing too bad. The population is reasonable. We've got a fair amount of money coming in. Can't grumble at that. The gambling house is actually closed. It doesn't have enough staff to run currently. So we are actually in a very, very dire need for people. Let us get ourselves some residential around here, because why not? These houses probably aren't going to have any room to grow, and they're going to be right next to an airport, but hey-ho, we just need people, so let us do that. What else can we try and do? Aren't really a lot of great spaces we can use at the moment. Let us continue with the housing around the backside of this avenue here. Main reason for that is they're going to back onto the airport, but hopefully it's going to help, because we do have a real worker problem. I think we are definitely going to have to try and put in a mega tower, just a low wealth one to start with, and see if it's going to work for us. Our population is still increasing though. We are getting these higher density buildings. So it should really start to help us at some point. Let's just check the utility situations. We still have a very sizable power excess, which is all good. Water's not doing particularly great. There is an excess, but only just. We need to sort that out. We also have sewage issues as well. Let's get that sorted. So water and sewage is being dealt with by the same building at the moment, which is one. Yes, there's definitely a problem here. So what we are going to do is we are going to... Can we not edit this? We need to get out of this first. There we go. Edit. So let's get a few more of these on. Of course, they do use ControlNet and they're quite expensive, but we definitely need to get this problem sorted. There we go. That should deal with the issues. The water is still clean, of course. It will take a little bit of time to come online. Missed the pop-up there. Almost burnt through all of our money again. Right, it's not giving us warnings now. The sewage is fine. We're still not producing a lot of water, though. So, I think what we'll do is we'll just have a couple of these hydro pumping stations placed around, because You know, they're cheap to run, and it helps water get around the city. We've got so much clean water around, it's probably worth having these things in a few places. And of course they do increase the sort of futuristic tech. I'm a little worried about these houses not actually being able to receive water so far away, so let us put one down here near the end of the airport, and that should be all good. We are starting to get a few houses in here. Gambling house is open again and back in profit, which is good because we don't want to be losing money. Actually showing power problems now. Really? We have a power deficit already? Ah, because of control net. We don't have enough control net. Okay. That's a problem. So let us go in here and let us turn off one or two of these. How many of these did we build? Let's turn a couple off for now. I'd sooner have power than the sewage capacity sorted out at the moment. Do these things require control net? No, they don't. But yes, we definitely have ourselves some issues with control net. Can we buy any more in the region? That's going to be the question. Let's have a look. Where are we? Control net trading. No, we're buying control net from Vaultville. We're not using nearly as much as we could do, though. So, theoretically, there is enough control net there for us to have all this up and running. We're at full speed, so let's just leave it for a minute and see what happens. Oh, the reactor has gone back offline. Oh. Now, this is a problem. Because we don't actually have enough power to be able to get this fusion reactor up and running. Okay, this is a real issue. So let's turn that off to start with. We are going to try and buy some power from elsewhere. We're going to buy from both places that we can. And back into the city. So this is the actual problem that you have. If you ever run out of control net and your power plant goes offline, you've got the potential of just completely running out of power. Doesn't look like it's going to get there, does it? Let's speed things up. We are buying power from neighbours. We might get there eventually. Oh, now we're out of control net again. Excuse me. So, what are we going to do here? I have no idea right now. This is really bad. This is really, really bad. Okay. We are going to turn off another one of these for the time being. Still don't have enough control net. And obviously the longer power is offline, we are going to start losing population, and it's going to be really bad for us. Worst case scenario, we take out a massive loan, we buy another power plant just to generate enough power until we can get things back up and running. Let's just speed things up again. Can we get enough control net? Okay, let's try and ignite the fusion reactor again. Hopefully we are buying enough power from our neighbours to get this up and running. Fingers crossed. No, didn't quite manage it. That is a real shame. Okay, we're going to have to do it then. We are going to have to go in. We are going to have to take out a massive bond, which I really don't want to have to do, but we're going to have to do it. We are going to have to buy ourselves whatever produces a sizable amount of power. Now, there's a very possible chance of meltdown with those, so you really don't want to do that. What should we take? We could actually go for wave power plants. Well, of course, they do require control net, which isn't going to help the issue. See, these things have a very real habit of melting down. What's the best thing for us to take? We don't even have a trade depot, which means we can't buy in the oil or the coal. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have to put in the wind farm again. just to get things up and running. Of course, power is starting to come back on because we are buying it from a neighbouring city, which certainly does help. So now that we've seen a lot of the power is coming back on, let's see if there's enough around just to try and ignite this again. Can't believe this has all gone so horribly wrong. Actually, no, I can believe this has all gone so horribly wrong. Oh, didn't quite get there again. Okay, yeah, we definitely need to get more power up and running before we're able to do this. So let's go back down to turtle speed. We are going to have to put a longer road on here for sure. We are definitely going to have to put a wind amplifier on. Of course, which does use even more control net and is a real pain, but it's going to need to be done. And then we're also going to have to put ourselves some of these big things on. They're expensive, but we need to generate as much power as we can. I've built it too close to the road, so I can only build these on one side. But once everything gets up and running, we'll get these reactors back online. This makes me wonder if it's not worth having a backup power plant at all times, just in case things do go horribly wrong. Of course, our big problem is control net, and the major problem, and the major cause of that is that we don't have enough high wealth workers to be able to produce enough. So yes, things have gone horribly wrong at this point, and we're going to start losing money and population very quickly if things don't start to sort themselves out. Control net is definitely our biggest issue right now. Of course, what we could do is we could build ourselves a control net facility. Now, the problem is, though, once again, like everything else, it requires high wealth workers. And this is where we have a bit of a problem. Can't actually afford to buy that right now anyway, because we're actually short of money again. But let's... what do I try and sort out first, the control net or the power? We seem to have enough control net at the moment. That says it needs control net, but that's just the amplifier that's offline. Yeah, and it's online now. It's not like it was the entire power plant that was offline. And it is generating some power. So let's have one more go before we end the video. And then if this doesn't sort it out, we'll have to try and deal with it next time. Still at full power. Oh, we got up to orange. And failed. But we know we're close now. So it is going to be possible. And of course, we're getting every single type of warning there is because there are so many buildings that are currently offline. We are going to have to add ourselves a few of these just normal turbines on this side. Just because we've got the space for them. And then hopefully, next time, we'll have enough power to get our reactor started. And we definitely need to make sure that we don't overload our control net again in the future, because that's going to be really problematic. So this has certainly been one of the most challenging cities that I have built to date, even though I intended it to be one of the simplest. And we're already getting so many abandoned buildings now because of low land value. And some of these are our big buildings as well. So we're going to have to sort all of that out. But that will be next time, folks, because this video has run on long enough. So thanks for watching, and I hope you're still enjoying the series. I'll see you next time. So until then, goodbye for now.